Welcome to the Raise podcast. I'm Carol Barwick. We're here to raise your confidence and inspire your creativity. Each episode, we will have a different guest who will be discussing our Raise word. The Raise word is a word that will encourage you or empower you and at times inspire you to explore the word a little more for yourself. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of the Raise podcast. We hope you've enjoyed the episode so far. We've had the word connection, the word voice, we've had the word overcome. And today we are with a brilliant Jude Simpson, who is a poet and writer and all-round brilliant person who is going to be talking to us about the word unexpected. Welcome to the Raise podcast, Jude.
Hello, thank you very much.
So, I'm quite excited, and this will be unexpected to you, Jude. But Jude and I were talking, and Jude wanted to do the word twist. And I love that word, but I wasn't sure with our listeners and the Facebook group how we would kind of eke out the word twist for a whole week. So I asked Jude if we could do the word unexpected, and that's all been brilliant. However, I've started listening to an amazing podcast called That Sounds Fun, Annie F. Downs, absolutely brilliant. Listen to her if you can. And I just chose an episode at random, totally at random, a guy called Bob Goff, and it was totally inspiring, but they spoke about the word twist.
Ah.
And I was like, right, okay, there's something going on here. They were talking about when you have a quarter a twist of the wine bottle and how it kind of gathers up all the sediment and makes sure that you get all the really good stuff all in one go. I just thought that was really fascinating, that of all the episodes I could have listened to, I chose to listen to the one with the word twist. So I am expecting this interview to be unexpected.
Excellent.
So tell us a little bit about your journey as a poet and kind of how it all started for you.
Sure. So it's quite apt really to be on a podcast called Unexpected, because often people can't pin down what I am or what I do. So it's almost like people have to come the first time without expectations or expecting to be surprised. I describe myself as a poet, writer, wordsmith and performer, and I'm all those things and some more. Shall I start with a little poem just to give you a flavour?
Oh, definitely, yeah.
This one's based on a typo. So I think it was meant to say fried bread and it said friend bread, probably an over-enthusiastic grammar corrector, well, spell check. So I just thought that's brilliant. I have to write about friend bread. Friend bread, slice of life, thickly spread, butters me up, friend bread. In a pickle, always saves me. In a stew, mops up my gravy.
Oh, wow. That's it. What a way to start the podcast. Friend bread. Brilliant.
It makes you want to curl up in a slice of warm bread.
It does, definitely.
So where did it all start? Well, that's always a good question. I have always loved performing, but other people haven't necessarily seen that. Certainly when I was a child, I was a big dancer, Carol. It really all started with dancing. And actually, I'll do a bit of a poem for you later about dancing.
I thought you were going to say, I'm just going to do a bit of a dance.
Oh, I could do that too. Yeah,
not quite so good on a podcast. I can see you brilliantly.
I could get my tap shoes out.
Yeah, and I could kind of do a commentary on it while you're doing it. We'll leave that. Yeah. That's a bit too unexpected for the listeners.
Maybe next time. So I went into a normal career after graduating. I worked in the civil service, but there was always something in me that wanted to write and perform. I'd always been fairly shy and quiet at school, which no one who's known me since the age of 25 ever believes. But I was quite shy. I was quite retiring. I never really pushed myself forward. But there was something in me that wanted to write and that loved words. And so there's a few little things I remember, like a housemate of mine left to go home to New Zealand, and I wrote her a little poem at her leaving party and read it out. And everyone was more enthralled than I expected. And kind of, a number of people said, oh, you should do more of that. And it was only a tiny thing, but it was really affirming. There was another time where there was a Christian man called Dennis Ball, who's not with us anymore, but he was a friend of my parents. And once when he came to visit our church, he did a poem that was about an old, beautiful, historic building of a church being renovated and changed in order to house a living body of church, a living body of people of faith. And I don't remember much about the poem, but I just remember how brilliant it was to coincide the change in the physical structure with the kind of renewal of the spiritual life. And the very last two lines were something about what's happened to the font. And the final line was, "It's been rendered a heavenly goldfish bowl." And
Wow.
I just remember thinking, that man's made us laugh and said something incredibly real and true at the same time. And that really captivated me. When I was at university, I studied French and actually studied Molière as my final year subject. And he was a fantastic comic actor who also wrote comic poetry, rhyming theatre. Looking back, I hadn't thought at the time how significant that was, but looking back, you think, well, yeah, I've always loved funny things that rhyme, as many of us do. So anyway, in my late 20s, I took a bit of time out, went back to work part-time and started writing and performing. And it's been a tough time ever since. But it's been brilliant. You know, people have responded and you learn what you're good at. You learn that people laugh at certain things. You learn to try new things. And yeah, from starting at kind of open mics and 5-minute slots and then getting paid £5 to do 12 minutes at the local pub, and then going on to get bookings, Edinburgh Festival, touring shows, that kind of thing.
Yeah. Wow. Edinburgh Festival, that's a biggie, isn't it? That's a great one to be part of. I don't know about you, but I just see particularly poetry, but creativity as a whole as unexpected. Like, you didn't expect to have a typo on your fried bread, whether you wrote it or someone else wrote it. You didn't expect that there was a typo, and then not many people would expect someone to say, there's a poem in there, I need to bring it out. And that's what I love about creativity, and particularly poetry. I think it is so unexpected. Anybody that knows me well knows that I crave the twist, the original bit, the thing that other people don't expect to happen. I really crave that. And I think poetry brings that in abundance. I know you've got lots of poems to share, so I'm going to let you kind of lead with the next poem, and we'll go from there. Unexpected.
Okay, so this one is about unexpected inspiration. I was driving with a friend past a sort of out of town shopping type complex, and there was a huge shop that was a sort of pet and aquatic centre, and on the side it said, "For all your pet and reptile needs." And I thought to myself, oh, I didn't know I had reptile needs. And I sort of thought I'd better get in touch with them. So this is a little bit out of my reptile needs poem. I'm a shambolic mammal who feels like the dregs. I've got too many arms or not enough legs, and something within me just wants to lay eggs. I have reptile needs. I need to languish in rivers and pools. Yeah, languishing's good, but I'm not a fool. I also need a semi-nocturnal schedule. I need to get hotter, I need to get wetter, I need to stop dithering, slithering's better. I need to be scaly and toenaily too. I need to be snaky and wakey and woo. That's one of my more nonsensical but very joyful poems to perform.
You see, you have enabled me to capture the art of laughing quietly, because if I had laughed as loudly as I'd wanted to, we wouldn't have heard the poem. I love that. It was, I need to be hotter. I need
to get hotter. I need to get wetter. Sorry. I need to stop dithering. Slithering's better. And when I perform that poem, there's a verse later on where I actually get down and I do that thing. I don't know if it's got a technical name. You know what reptiles on hot sand will lift up the opposite arm and leg and then put them down and then lift up the other arm and leg. On diagonally, so that their hands and feet don't get too hot. So I actually do that as part of the poem. It's very silly, but it's
Oh, it was
It is
perfect.
hilarious, and
Yeah, yeah,
it's when your rapport with the audience is working, it just being able to be silly and funny just breaks down so many boundaries.
yeah, yeah. What what do you, when you have an audience in the palm of your hand, when you know you've really got them,
Yeah.
how do you create the unexpected?
Oh, that's a good question. You mean how do I take them somewhere that they
Yeah,
didn't expect to
yeah,
go?
yeah. Because when you've got the
Uh,
audience in the palm of your hand, it's very easy to think, right, I can, I know who they are, so I'll do this poem, this poem. How do you kind of create that sense of it? They're not gonna, you're not expecting this one.
well, you know, I generally plan for the unexpected when it's a performance.
Okay.
I'll often do sort of off the cuff comments and remarks and interaction with the audience. Um, but I generally know which poems I'm going to do and the shape of the set I'm going to do, whether it's 20 minutes or an hour or whatever, um, because you are taking them on a journey and you know what that journey is. And they'll experience it in a different way to any other audience, but it will be the same journey that you're guiding them on. So I rarely change the poems I'm going to do. Um, Unless it's a really terrible audience, to be honest. And obviously, it's always a terrible audience, not a terrible performer.
Of course.
But um, you know, sometimes you think, right, this is not going well. We'll just knock one of the poems out of the middle and finish on a crowd pleaser. Sometimes you feel like, I don't know, I don't know if this audience really is ready to listen to my more heartfelt work, and you maybe take one out and put a more frivolous one in. But on the whole, it's the interactive bits in between the poems that I change and adapt as I go along.
Yeah,
But the poems themselves I've thought quite carefully about the arc of the story and the shape of the show. So yeah.
yeah. And that's important, isn't it? I think that's important um, for us as performers to have that security of I'm going to do this one and I'm going to do this one. But it is lovely to have that flexibility of, okay, I might swap those ones around, as you said, put the kind of crowd pleaser
Exactly.
at the end. And
That's
yeah,
right. And do you know what, though? One of the reasons I always think that I'm a writer is that I'm not actually terribly good at saying exactly what I think off on the spot.
okay.
Do you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people say, "Oh, you know, you must be able to just do this," and actually, I think, well, no. What I'm best at is really crafting something and taking a long time to work out how to say it, and then performing it. But you're right. Once I have the security of that, when things go well, I can kind of riff off the audience and have fun and chat in between and stuff as well, which is always really enjoyable.
Yeah. Um, Tell me a time in your life where something unexpected happened and creativity helped that in some way. If that's a bit of a crazy question, I can give you an example first of all, but see what.
I can think of lots of times where other people's creativity has inspired me.
Yeah,
So often when I've gone to, you know, a bog standard gig, nothing big, nothing famous, but just hearing other people say their stuff, whether it's comedy or poetry, particularly poetry and spoken word, um, there'll always be something that I've never heard before that fires off a little something in my brain that follows a track and ends up in something. Um, yeah, in a piece of work. So
yeah,
I did a gig years and years ago, and someone played Fever, the song Fever. It was a jazz gig, I think. I did some poetry, and there were a number of jazz musicians. One of them sung the song Fever. And on the way home, it's such a brilliant song. I thought I've got to do a pastiche of that song. And on the tube on the way home, I was just I remember writing down heaps and heaps of words that could possibly take the place of fever in that song, and I ended up with FEMA, and I wrote a song about having big bones, and
love
that
it.
was really fun, and that was unexpected. I even
Yeah.
took my guitar out on the train actually and tried it out a little bit, so that was unexpected for the passengers.
Oh, I love that. Oh, thank you for doing that. You would be the kind of person that if I was on the train, I would be all over that. Like, oh, she's got the
You'd have come
guitar out.
along
Come
and
on.
done harmonies, Carol.
Yeah, yeah. I've missed 18 stops, but I'm here for the
I'm in high
performance.
barnet, but who cares? We've been creative.
I'm staying. I'll live somewhere else if I just get to hear that last chord progression. Oh, I love that. I think that's brilliant. Obviously, this is going to date the podcast in the future, but in the last year or so, we have had something incredibly unexpected. Nobody expected a pandemic, the proportions, all the incredible things that have happened as a result. I didn't expect to get long COVID and be in the position that I'm in now. And yet, amazing things can come from the unexpected. I didn't expect to start a podcast or expect to love it the way that I do. How has the pandemic kind of given you some kind of glimpses of hope or new ways of looking at things?
Yeah. Well, at the start, it was hard. You know, I've got 4 children, they're all primary school age. So having them, I love them dearly,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
having them all at home all the time,
Yeah.
it broke me really. I mean, I've had the one of the luckiest pandemics anyone's had. I live in a beautiful green rural village in the east of the country. Our rates have been pretty much lower than everyone else for most of the pandemic. It's been easy to go out. I work from home anyway, so none of us, no one in my family or household has had COVID. So, you know, we've been immensely lucky. At the same time, it has been grim, even on that level. It's been really hard with my children all at home all the time, particularly the lockdown right at the beginning, just after Christmas, early January, when it was bleak outside as well. But I did. It was almost like I said to myself at the beginning of the pandemic, well, that's creativity out of the window. I've just got to get my head down, keep everyone safe, do what I need to do, get the children through, make sure they stay safe and healthy, and maybe learn 1 or 2 things. I'm not going to do any writing. But it was almost like from suppressing it and suppressing it and suppressing it, it had to break out at some point. And it really broke out January, February time when there was one Sunday when I went for a walk and I got an idea for a song, and I got home, ignored my husband and all the children for the rest of the day, wrote it, ignored the children all day on Wednesday, practiced it, recorded it with the children on Wednesday night and put it on YouTube. And that was my Vaccinate song. That's a song about wanting to get vaccinated when you're not quite old enough yet. Then I went on. I mean, literally, it was like a little surge. I wrote a song about homeschooling. I wrote another piece about something else. Anyway, and then I wrote my hope poem because I really thought at the beginning of the pandemic we had all our rainbows and it was terrible, but hope was a very colourful thing. And at the end of at the beginning of this year, that January, February time, hope was a completely different thing. It was so unexpected. It was so depressing. It was so difficult to deal with. But hope was still there. And I was really fascinated by the different faces of hope in those times. So this is just an extract from my hope poem. Goes like this. I thought to myself, where did all the rainbows go? But you can't make rainbows with snow. And at our lowest low, we felt that we had lost hope. But no, that's when hope came into its own. Because hope is harder and hardier than that. More rugged, more solid, more dog-eared, less puppy-eyed, more experienced and possibly more resilient. Hope is quiet, stubborn, unshowy, gutsy, gnarled, weathered, clinging. Hope is not the feathered bird singing, but the pair of battered hands, red, raw and dry, that still open to let it take to the sky. Hope was when we looked each other in the eye and said, I can't do this anymore, but I'm going to have to. Hope was hugging your tearful child when you couldn't find ways to explain things. Hope was fishing out a muddy glove and sticking it up on a railing. Hope is not the opposite of failing. It's the habit of knowing there's a reason for not giving up. And remember what extraordinary things we achieve when we don't give up.
Wow. Thank you.
Yeah, so that's not a comedy poem, but like I've said previously, sometimes when you're funny and lighthearted, it helps you take people into a more thoughtful, meaningful place because they trust you and you've softened up. And a lot of people really responded to that poem, and I felt like sometimes it's an enormous privilege, isn't it, as a creative person, when you feel you've just tapped into a common feeling at a particular time and helped people to put into words what they're already feeling. So I think, yeah, that's kind of what happened with that one.
Oh my goodness, how fun is Jude Simpson? I don't know about you, but I'm having an absolute blast talking about things that are unexpected. The podcast is not unexpected anymore. If you're a regular listener, you know that it's coming up. It's coming up every 2 weeks. So go on to your favourite one and leave us a review. Carry on listening.
So we've been talking about the ways that creativity has kind of brought hope and lifted you through the pandemic. How were your children? Did you see anything unexpected happen in them at that time?
Do you know, with little younger children, I think the most extraordinary thing is that they haven't developed a full sense of what's normal.
Yeah.
So things that are unexpected for us, they kind of just take, you know. So
Yeah.
my little one's only just turned 7, so he barely had 6.5 years of life experience, most of which he won't remember. So he's still forming in himself a sense of what the world is. So when the world completely tips on its axis for us, actually that's not necessarily happening for the children. They're just adding a bit more information into their consolidating sense of what the world is like. So it's almost the most unexpected thing for them was that they don't react like we do. They don't go, oh my goodness. I talked after a while with my older ones about, you know, you'll always remember this. You'll always, this is a really extraordinary thing. No one who's alive at the moment, apart from the very, very few who were right at the end of the Second World War or just after, no one will have gone through anything like this before in our country. So trying to get them to grasp that without expecting them to really feel it was quite interesting.
Yeah, I love that. That's really worth thinking about, isn't it? Maybe something can't be unexpected unless you've got some kind of expectation or notion of what normal is or what you think something's going to be. Oh, it's a good word, isn't it? It is a good.
Good.
I
Yeah,
like the word. You wanted to use the word twist, and obviously twist is great for kind of talking about unexpected. Where did that come from? What is twist kind of been doing in your life?
Well, I thought of 3 things about twist. One thing you mentioned right at the beginning, putting your twist on something. Sometimes it's easy to think, oh, there's so many people out there saying and doing and writing so many things, but actually our own voice is ours and ours only. And when I write something, I do by nature put my own twist on it. And sometimes when you are writing something, you consciously think, right, what is my twist? What's going to take this and just make it slightly different? It doesn't have to be a big twist, does it? It can just be a very slightly different angled view from how other people might see things. So that was my first sense. My second was twist or stick. So originally from the game Pontoon, twist is to take another card, see if you can either improve your card, but with the risk that you go bust. Whereas stick is stay as you are, you know, keep what you've got, make the most of it, and don't risk anything. And again, in our creative careers, there's definitely a time for each of those, and the wisdom to choose which one it is at any particular time is probably quite important. You know, when to go, wow, that it's always good to say yes to an idea, isn't it? But not necessarily to kind of canter down an alley before really understanding where it's going to go. So yeah,
I love that.
Stick.
I'd love to see someone canter down an alley. Please write a poem about cantering down an alley,
Okay,
Jude.
we'll note that down. You know what, my history teacher at secondary school, I've never forgot, said something on my report. You know, she's very nice and she's very diligent, but sometimes she goes a long way down a blind alley before realizing it's blind. I've always kept that in my mind, and every so often I think, I wonder if that's happening right now. So then the third kind of twist that I thought of was, of course, the dance, twist and shout. Because as I said before, dancing was my first love. And I've got a piece of my dancer poem here, which is a piece of work that I'm really proud of. It's quite a long poem, so this is just an extract. But overall, the piece is about starting as someone who loved dance, knowing and realizing that that couldn't be a career choice, and then slowly and unexpectedly finding out that words were taking the place of the physical expression of dance in my life, and how exciting that's been. So this is a piece from Dancer. Hey, you think the dance starts in your feet? No, it starts in the lyrical part of your brain. Then it soaks through your body like tropical rain, like tropical rain, like tropical rain, like a palm tree sways in a hurricane. Then it gets to your feet, where it picks up speed. It urges you forward, becomes a need to speak, to say the truth out plain, like a bobsleigh forced through a narrow lane, like a chicane, like blood turns to ink in a writer's vein. The dance takes you over. Its beauty is frightening. Like thunder at night between sheets of lightning, it floods and it fires you, unknown but inviting, like a stranger who already knows your name. Like a lion's mane, like Aslan's mane, like Rudolf Nureyev and Margot Fontaine, it leaps, knows no bounds, it climbs and it falls, it crashes upon you, it breaks down your walls, and half held and half holding, it forges new courses, and you learn to ride it, wild, like unbridled horses. For hours, till it tells what it's told. Till your body is buzzing with power controlled, with passion encompassed, with madness constrained, like King David dancing without any shame. And here comes the refrain, here comes the refrain, the unstoppable weight of a freight train.
Wow, that movement is incredible. The way that you've got that feeling of dance through it, and you've almost got a horse cantering down the alleyway. There was a horse in there, I noticed.
Yeah.
Wow, it's just worth saying to everybody listening, please go. We've got all the links in the show notes. Please go and find Jude Simpson for yourself, and spend a lovely amount of time properly soaking in her poems and her wordsmithery. I'm sure wordsmithery is a word, isn't it?
It must be. Well, it is
must
now.
be. Yeah. So yes, and just take time to really take in all those words, because it's been lovely to have extracts, but I want people to kind of have the whole experience of what you do. It's brilliant. It's been really great to talk to you. We are nearly at the end of our episode for today. It's been fantastic talking to you. We now come to the part of the show where I write a poem for you. But seeing as the word is unexpected, I wondered if you would write a poem for me first.
Okay, so I was, when you got in touch recently, I was racking my brains to remember how we were first introduced, because actually we've been on each other's radar for a long time.
Yeah.
So I wrote this. Carol, who are you again? I know that we were introduced by a friend. I know people you know who live up north. I know you're a cheerer, an encourager, a force for love and for good and for positive vibes, for singing, for confidence, casting nets wide, a COVID overcomer, a liver with limits. You've a bright open life and your faith features in it. I know all these things, all you say, stuff you do, but if I'm not mistaken, I've never actually met you.
Oh, Jude. Oh, I love that so much.
We haven't met face to face, have we?
I was exactly the same. I was like, right, okay, so how do I know Jude? Yeah. How do I know Jude? How do I know Jude? But I'm just so glad that we do. And that's all that matters.
I think it was Louise, first of all.
Yes, I think it was. That's what I thought. Louise. Yeah. Louise, man, if you're listening, thank you. Because as Jude said, even though we haven't met physically, it's been a great relationship, and it's been lovely to actually talk today and talk about unexpected things. So now I've got this is the bit where I take a bit of a deep breath and write something for you. So I'm looking at the brilliant Zoom. The time is ticking down, so the pressure is on. So exciting. So off the cuff, funny stuff. We talked about alligators, scaly and rough. horses cantering down alleyways, dancing, flexible, all kinds of ways to use your words for bringing hope, for bringing up children, for bringing up hope. Words are important. Let's not forget. If it's unexpected, there's always a yet. I'm going to leave it there.
Oh, that's brilliant. Carol, you're so clever. That is
I
brilliant.
love it. It's such an adrenaline rush because I never know what I'm going to say.
Literally just done that as we've been talking.
Yeah. But I love it. But it's because I'm inspired by my guests that I can do it. And this has been wonderful and really not that unexpected, because I knew what I was getting when I wanted to interview you, and it's been everything that I wanted, but so much more. So thank you so much. Listeners, we always have a little challenge at the end. So have a little think about something that's been unexpected for you. How can you twist that? We talked about that quarter of a twist. How can you change it slightly in some kind of way to see a bit more hope in it? And if we can help you, if Jude can help you, or if I can help you see it in that more positive, hopeful way, please get in touch and let us know. Don't forget to share about Jude and the amazing things that she's been speaking about today. Please share our podcast with other people. And it just leaves me to say goodbye, Jude, and thank you so much. What a wonderful episode.
Thank you so much. It's been an absolute pleasure.
A final thought from Seb.
It doesn't matter if people like it or don't like it, because it's me and I like it.
Thank you for listening to the Raise podcast. We hope you feel raised and inspired by this episode. Whilst we are not offering face-to-face classes currently, we are doing online singing lessons where you can have your voice raised as well as your confidence. If you would like to find out more, please visit our website at www.raiseforall.com or find us on social media on either our Facebook or Instagram page. Take care.